The hum was a living thing, a low thrum that vibrated through the soles of my boots and clawed at the edges of my sanity. It wasn't the mechanical drone of machinery, not precisely. It was deeper, older, a resonance that echoed from the glacial heart of the earth itself. The cold bit with a ferocity that stole the breath, each inhale a painful reminder of the fragile warmth I carried within me, a flickering candle in the face of an Arctic gale. Above, the sky was a bruised canvas of twilight, the sun a memory swallowed by the horizon. Below, the ice stretched, an endless, fractured plain of blue-gray, hiding secrets fathoms deep. Tonight, it felt less like a protective shield and more like a tomb. My breath plumed white in the frigid air, each exhale a fleeting ghost against the encroaching darkness. The only other light came from the sickly green glow emanating from the control panel before me, a digital altar to decisions that could shatter the world. My fingers, clumsy with cold and dread, danced across the keys, each press a tiny hammer blow against the fragile dam holding back the deluge. The weight of it all, the sheer, impossible burden of command, pressed down on me, a crushing gravity that threatened to buckle my knees. Was this courage, or merely the frozen numbness of despair? The ice groaned beneath my feet, a slow, agonizing lament that mirrored the ache in my own soul. It was a sound I knew well, a constant companion in this desolate place, but tonight it felt different, heavier, pregnant with an unspoken dread. The air crackled with a static electricity that made the hairs on my arms stand on end, a primal warning that something immense, something terrible, was about to be unleashed. The hum intensified, growing louder, more insistent, until it felt like it was boring a hole through my skull. The memory of her smile, a radiant sunrise against a backdrop of worry lines, flashed through my mind. Clara. Her laugh, like wind chimes in a summer breeze. I hadn't seen her in 6 months, not since the last time I'd been granted leave, a stolen weekend in a world that felt impossibly distant now, a dream fading at the edges. I remembered the way she smelled, of lavender and sunshine, a stark contrast to the sterile, metallic tang of the station. She'd always worried about me, about this place, about the weight of responsibility that I carried on my shoulders. "Promise me," she'd said, her eyes searching mine. "Promise me you'll always remember who you are, no matter what they ask you to do." Clara had been my anchor, my tether to the world outside this frozen wasteland. We met in college, both studying astrophysics, drawn together by a shared fascination with the cosmos and a mutual loneliness that resonated deep within our souls. She saw something in me that I didn't see in myself, a spark of hope, a capacity for love that I thought had been extinguished long ago. She challenged me, pushed me, made me laugh when I wanted to cry. She taught me the names of constellations, showed me the beauty hidden in the darkest nights, and reminded me that even in the vast emptiness of space, there was always something worth fighting for. Our first date was at the University Observatory. We spent hours huddled together, shivering in the cold, gazing at the celestial tapestry above. She pointed out the constellations, tracing their outlines with her finger in the air, her voice filled with a childlike wonder that captivated me. Later, as we walked back to our dorms, she slipped her hand into mine, her touch warm and reassuring against the chill of the night. It was a small gesture, but it felt like a promise, a silent vow to face the darkness together. We spent years building a life together, a quiet, unassuming existence filled with books, coffee, and long walks in the woods. We talked about everything and nothing, sharing our hopes, our fears, our dreams for the future. We imagined a small house with a garden, filled with the laughter of children. We knew the risks of my profession, the sacrifices it demanded, but we believed that our love could withstand any challenge, any distance, any darkness. Then came the summons. The opportunity, or rather, the obligation, to serve my country in a way that few others could. The offer to join the Silent Watch, the last line of defense against the threat that lurked beneath the ice. Clara had understood, of course. She knew that I couldn't refuse, that the weight of responsibility was too great to ignore. But I saw the fear in her eyes, the unspoken dread that haunted her dreams. And I knew, with a certainty that chilled me to the bone, that this decision would change everything. The klaxon screamed again, a raw, animalistic cry that ripped through the control room. Commander Rostov's face was a mask of granite, the lines around his eyes etched deeper than ever. He didn't flinch, didn't even blink. His gaze remained fixed on the launch key, held in Captain Volkov's trembling hand. Volkov, Rostov's voice was low, dangerously calm. Are you certain? Absolutely certain? Volkov swallowed hard, the metallic tang of fear coating his tongue. He looked at the readout, the impossible numbers glaring back at him. The American submarine, the USS Montana, was gone. Vanished. As if swallowed by the ice itself. Their sensors, despite every recalibration, every diagnostic, showed only a void. A void where a nuclear-armed vessel had been. Commander, Volkov stammered, all readings confirm. They are not there. A catastrophic event, sir. We have to assume, first strike capability. He couldn't finish the sentence. The implication, the unbearable weight of it, hung in the air like a shroud. Rostov closed his eyes for a brief, agonizing moment. He saw Anya's face, bathed in the warm glow of their kitchen lamp. He saw his son, Dmitri, laughing as he chased pigeons in the park. He saw a world worth saving. Or at least, a world he thought was worth saving. He opened his eyes, the resolve hardening in their depths. Very well, Captain. Input the launch code. Now. Volkov's hand shook violently as he inserted the key. The red light above the launch console pulsed ominously. He hesitated, his face slick with sweat. He looked at Rostov, pleadingly. Commander, there has to be another way. We can't be sure, what if? Rostov cut him off, his voice a steel blade. There is no other way, Captain. We have a duty. To our country. To our people. To ensure their survival. He reached out, his hand covering Volkov's. Turn the key, Captain. Do it. Volkov closed his eyes, tears squeezing out from beneath his eyelids. He turned the key. The world exploded. Not literally, not yet. But in that instant, in that small, claustrophobic control room, the world as they knew it shattered. The launch sequence initiated, a cascade of electronic pulses that echoed the frantic beating of their hearts. The missile, a silent behemoth of destruction, stirred in its silo beneath the ice. Rostov felt a strange sense of detachment, as if he were watching this unfold from a great distance. He saw the faces of his crew, the mixture of fear, duty, and disbelief etched on their features. He saw the cold, uncaring machinery of war grinding into motion. He saw the future, a future shrouded in nuclear winter. He thought of Anya, of Dmitri. He prayed they would be spared. He prayed he was doing the right thing. But deep down, a cold certainty gnawed at him. He knew that whatever happened next, nothing would ever be the same. He had crossed a line, a point of no return. He was now a part of something terrible, something irreversible. He was a soldier, yes, but also a destroyer. He stood there, ramrod straight, as the final countdown ticked away. He was a man of duty, a man of honor. But in that moment, as the fate of the world hung in the balance, he was also a man consumed by regret. A man who knew he had made a choice, a terrible choice, and that he would have to live with the consequences for the rest of his days. Or what was left of them. The taste of stale coffee clung to Dmitri's tongue, a bitter reminder of another sleepless night. He sat hunched over his laptop, the glow of the screen illuminating the lines etched around his eyes. The news reports flickered across the screen, a relentless barrage of geopolitical tension, military posturing, and veiled threats. The world was teetering on the brink again. He rubbed his temples, trying to ward off the throbbing headache that had become his constant companion. He hadn't slept properly in weeks, haunted by nightmares of mushroom clouds and the cold, unforgiving depths of the Arctic Ocean. He closed the laptop with a sigh, the silence of his small apartment amplifying the emptiness he felt inside. He walked over to the window, staring out at the gray, overcast sky. The city below bustled with life, oblivious to the invisible forces that threatened to tear it all apart. He thought of his father, the stoic, unyielding man he had both admired and feared. He had never spoken about his time in the Navy, only offering cryptic answers to Dimitri's childhood questions. But Dimitri had always sensed a darkness within him, a weight he carried with him every day. After his father died, Dimitri had found a box hidden in the attic. Inside there were old photographs, faded letters, and a single, tarnished medal. He had spent hours poring over the contents, trying to piece together the fragments of his father's past. He had learned about the K-19, the infamous Widowmaker, and the harrowing missions his father had undertaken beneath the ice. He had learned about the Cold War, the constant threat of nuclear annihilation, and the sacrifices made by those who stood on the front lines. But it wasn't until years later, after a chance encounter with a former crewmate of his father's, that he had learned the truth. The truth about the launch order, the missing American submarine, and the agonizing choice his father had made. The knowledge had shattered him. It had forced him to confront the reality of his father's legacy, the burden of a decision that had almost plunged the world into nuclear war. He had tried to reconcile the image of the loving father he had known with the man who had stood on the precipice of destruction. He still struggled with it. The weight of his father's secret, the knowledge of what he had done, was a constant presence in his life. He saw it in the faces of strangers, in the headlines of the news reports, in the fear that flickered in his own heart. He picked up a framed photograph from his desk, a picture of him and his father taken years ago. They were standing on a beach, the sun shining on their faces. His father was smiling, a rare and precious moment captured in time. Dimitri traced the outline of his father's face with his finger. He knew he could never truly understand the choices his father had made. He could only try to honor his memory, to live a life worthy of the sacrifices he had made. He knew that the world was still a dangerous place, that the threat of nuclear war still loomed large. But he also knew that there was hope, that humanity was capable of great resilience and compassion. He had seen it in the faces of the people who had worked tirelessly to build a better future, in the acts of kindness and generosity that defied the darkness. He took a deep breath, the stale air filling his lungs. He knew that he couldn't change the past, but he could shape the future. He could choose to live with hope, to fight for peace, to honor the memory of his father by striving to create a world where such choices would never have to be made again. It was a heavy burden, but one he was willing to carry. For his father. For himself. For the world. The rumble intensified, a guttural growl emanating from the depths of the earth itself. Cracks spiderwebbed across the control panels, casting dancing shadows in the crimson glow of emergency lights. Anya braced herself, hands gripping the cold metal of her station, the tremor vibrating through her bones. Outside, the ice groaned in protest, a symphony of cracking and rending that mirrored the fracturing within her own soul. The launch sequence completed. A mechanical arm, bathed in eerie green light, swung away from the missile silo. A countdown timer, stark and unforgiving, ticked towards 0. Anya closed her eyes, picturing her daughter's face, the innocent smile that had once filled her world with light. A tear escaped, tracing a path down her cheek, a solitary testament to the life she was about to extinguish, the future she was about to obliterate. Then silence. A deafening, absolute silence. The rumbling stopped. The tremors ceased. The cracking ice stilled its tortured symphony. The only sound was the frantic beating of her own heart. Anya opened her eyes slowly, cautiously. The countdown timer had frozen, displaying a string of zeros. The green light of the launch arm flickered and died. The red emergency lights dimmed, replaced by the cold, sterile white of the station's standard illumination. Confusion warred with relief. Had it failed? Had some unforeseen malfunction intervened? Or was this a different kind of horror, a prelude to something even more terrifying? A voice crackled over the comms, a voice she hadn't heard in years, a voice she thought was lost forever. Anya? Can you hear me? It was Dimitri. Her breath caught in her throat. Dimitri? Is that really you? It's me. We stopped it. Just in time. Stopped it? How? A long silence followed, punctuated only by static. Then, Dimitri's voice, heavy with weariness and a profound, unsettling calm. We found them, Anya. The true source. It wasn't the Americans. It wasn't a rogue faction. It was a system. An old, automated system, designed to retaliate in the event of our annihilation. It had misread a solar flare as a nuclear attack. It was a ghost in the machine, triggered by a cosmic hiccup. The revelation hit her with the force of a physical blow. All this destruction, all this fear, all this impending doom, stemmed from a cosmic error, a misunderstanding on a scale too vast to comprehend. The irony was a bitter poison on her tongue. But the codes, she stammered. How did you disable the launch? That's where it gets complicated, Dmitri said, his voice strained. We had help. From the Americans. They had a similar system. They figured it out just moments before their own launch sequence initiated. We worked together, Anya. For the first time in decades, we worked together to save the world. She pictured them, the enemy, the other side, hunched over consoles, their faces illuminated by the same desperate light, fighting the same impossible battle. The image was both surreal and profoundly moving. And the signal, the one that triggered everything? A ghost, Dmitri repeated. A phantom signal, amplified by the ionosphere. It was like a cosmic sneeze that almost wiped us all out. Another silence descended, heavier this time, pregnant with the weight of what had almost been. Anya looked around the control room, at the cracked panels, the flickering lights, the remnants of a near apocalypse. The world outside was still frozen, still silent, but it was a silence filled with possibility, with a fragile, tentative hope. What now, Dmitri? She asked, her voice barely a whisper. No, he said, his voice gaining strength. We rebuild. Together. We learn from this. We dismantle these systems. We build a future where this can never happen again. Anya closed her eyes, and for the first time in days, she felt a flicker of something akin to peace. The ice may still hold them captive, but the ice within her own heart had begun to thaw. The world had been given a second chance. And perhaps, just perhaps, so had she. The weight on her chest lessened as she looked forward to telling her daughter about this day, the day the world almost ended, and the day that, against all odds, it didn't. A new dawn would break, and hopefully, it would be one of unity and peace.